exactly. And so everyone hated that scene, and they got kicked out of several studios because of that scene. And so I just thought it was really interesting that the way that scene happened, like just the way because yeah, I mean, Travolta hadn't done that. Archer, he was such a brat, just coming home complaining, yelling at his daughter. I don't know. I just
it just shows the other side of life because you got the straight edge cop, which you see that in everyday life. I mean, I've got friends who represent one spectrum, others who represent the other, and I know where I fall, and you fall in. We all fall within there, and you can probably think of people in your life who'd be like, yeah, I can see Mula pulling this off, or Norbert, or maybe Matteo, or pulling smooth moves off, or being the opposite and being super like, no, we can't have fun. Like some of my friends when I'm like, let's sneak into Face Off. And like, no, it's against the law. We're 14. We have to go watch Air Force One. Kind of like, that would have been a Castor move. Like, buy the false ticket, make a move, take a gamble.
You're the Castor Troy of the group. You're the drummer, man. You're the wild card. You're the rock star out there. So you're the Castor Troy.
Like, I like to think, like that.
I'm like in the middle.
So I do. You're in the middle?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah. I'm a Castor Archer. No, wait.
Archer? Castor Archer, part 2
Troy.
Face Off. They're going to make they're remaking the movie.
It's not going to work. And let me ask you a question, Matteo. So you remake this super serious, or you remake it as a comedy, it's still going to be sort of self-conscious, right? It's going to be winky. What I love about Face Off is, John Woo's movies, his early things, The Killer, Hard Boiled, there's a lot of melodrama. There's a lot of synth scores. There's a lot of doves. There's a lot of people looking off into the distance contemplatively. Exactly. A lot of doves. And this movie, it's just this interesting, it's very earnest. How's that sound? The emotion in it, the scenes, the Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I think there's an earnestness to it with the violence that make it work. So if you remake this, I mean, every movie's remade, so I'm not worried about it being remade because everything is. But how could you make a Face Off sequel successful? Does that make sense? You can't be super serious. You can't be over the top. Like, how can you blend it? This movie was blended perfectly.
And it's almost like you said, not manipulated, not intentionally blended. Let's be funny here. Let's be super violent here. He just made it like a ballet, like I read he likes to do that. It was just earnest is a good word, honest. There was no like
there it is. Yeah.
Manipulations. And you're right. Now they're going to be like, okay, well, we have Face Off. It was really violent, but it had comedy. But it was comedy through such a like contrast because it's not really like a comedy movie, but it's just because the character, he's a prick. It's like the Shakespeare movie, like I forget that term. I used to study English literature, but when like the audience knows what's happening, but the characters don't.
Oh, so there's suspense or there's like shock. So
there's a word though, the theatric word for literary word where like the audience, we know that it's Shakespeare's do that when he'd have men become women and women become men, in his plays. And I, at the moment, can't think of that correct play, but there's like plays where the identities are mistaken.
Got it. Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, it's funny because we know what's going on, but the characters have no clue. So when Travolta shows up as Castor, as a total jerk at the house, he's a psycho criminal. So had we not known, it'd be like, this is a horror movie, like he can just like murder her, but we know he's not really that person. So it's like a comedy right there.
Yeah. Because you can laugh with it. But you're right. If you played it one way, it could be a total horror movie. But the way they played it was more of he still had the menace, right? Remember when he meets his daughter for the first time and you're like, oof, how old is this kid? They should probably be showing this. So there's some menace there, but there's also him just like, he's like, this is getting real. Like, I have a family now. This is like,
and you got to look after her. He's actually going to be like, you know what? I'm going to look after her. Here's a knife. And when he sees that prick in the car, it's going to be like, because I remember that scene, but not well. And when I was waiting for it, I'm like, I remember he kicks that guy's ass. I'm like, I can't wait to see that scene again.
Like, it's been why?
Because when's the last case? So I saw that movie.
He grown-mans this guy.
15 years ago. Like, I didn't see it that time in the theater because I couldn't. I had to wait for it to come out on like DVD, or was it video back then?
Yeah, VHS.
VHS, and then I didn't watch it for years. Like, I might have seen it once in a while on TV, but it wasn't like out of my way. But I just remember, and why we're talking about it is I remember on Facebook you put those challenges, and then I just said, man, Face Off is an action movie. Why is that off the radar? I felt like it's been the forgotten movie.
You're right.
And now I'm glad I said it, and then you said let's do it, because for real, I would have not thought of it had you not put those movie challenges. And I'm like, even the name, it's a face-off, right? This movie versus this movie. I'm like, we got ourselves a winner here.
So you bring up a great point, because when you look at action movie history, right? And maybe we're taking ourselves out of a bubble. You and I come from completely different places for movies, but I think we can agree that when you talk about tier 1 mentioned action films, Face Off doesn't come into play. I mean, when you think about
for some reason.
I mean, when I think more people think about The Rock or Hard Boiled or The Matrix, right? It's not.
Well, those are after. I think like one of mine is like Predator. I think that falls in a tight top contender, but violent as crazy. Again, another movie. Were you allowed to watch rated R movies when you grew up?
I did. Yeah, I watched everything when I was
younger.
You were allowed? So when I
Your
was younger,
let you?
Oh yeah, I went and saw Pulp Fiction when I was 12 with my mom, and for a while when I was like 9 or 10, I took myself off of R-rated movies for a while. Because I was like, man, I just can't. Because I watched an R-rated movie and I was like, this is too much for me. I think it was Reservoir Dogs or something. And when I was 10, I was like, man, this is above my pay grade. And so I was like, I'm not gonna watch R-rated movies for a while. I'm gonna get straight. I'm gonna watch PG movies, PG-13. But then Lethal Weapon 2 came out. I was like, oh well, I gotta watch that. So
we had it different.
Yeah, I tried to take myself off of R-rated because I was like, this is too much for me. I'm learning too much. Like I shouldn't be watching Exit to Eden at age 11. So but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I love that you said that, man, because
I'm the opposite.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I was always about trying to watch these movies. Like I wasn't allowed. So like I'd go to my Mexican friend Pedro Soto. This guy, he had the black box.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
and his parents let him watch whatever. So I remember watching Bloodsport, a very violent
that changed you, didn't it?
Yeah, and I was like, then I'd go home and I'm like, I can't watch. My dad wouldn't let me. Then we go to Blockbuster, Rogers, to rent a movie, and I try and grab rated R movies, thinking I'm gonna outsmart my dad. I'm like, oh yeah, you just shuffle this one. He just turns like, no, we're gonna watch Turner and Hooch. I don't know what, but it's like, or anybody who'd take me to rent a movie, I'd always try and pass a quick one. Take the most violent looking movie, like one of the covers with guns and murals, and then like my uncle's like, no, we're gonna watch the PG-13 one.
I bought Natural Born Killers used on VHS. I bought Kids used on VHS. I was like the unsupervised feral child of the 90s.
You're allowed.
Yeah.
But
I love your point, man. I guess with this movie, why do you think? Because all right, you know what you brought up, Predator, right? Or The Rock. So Predator is guys in the jungle get attacked by something more powerful than them. T2, right? It has some higher elements to it, but it's a chase film essentially. Then you have The Rock, where we have to break into Alcatraz and fight, and it really does get better from there. But Face Off, it's like, do you think it's so complicated and over the top that it's not considered a tier 1 action movie because of its bonkers plot? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's because it's confusing when you think of it like, oh, he's him now. Sometimes like maybe people get confused of who's who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like just the concept when I'm like watching, oh yeah, okay. I sometimes have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna go into weaknesses, I mean weaknesses of the movie.
Do you think the performances
the action is good? They're good. You know what? I thought, like I said, so I haven't watched it in 15 years I got ready for this, so I watched it last week. I think it was Sunday night because we were going to go Tuesday. And then, no, I actually liked the performances. Like, yeah, they're a little over top, but when he comes at the airport with his jacket flowing and he's like just crazy and he grabs the girl in the airplane and he's like, lick my tongue. I'm like, man, what a jerk. I forgot how crude it is. Like this guy is just like an appetite for everything, but he cares about his brother.
Yeah, ties his shoes.
Like it's cool. That's like that little touching, and you almost hope that he feels bad for killing his kid, but he doesn't. He's like, you're in the way, it's an accident, and you almost hope he feels bad at the cemetery, but he really doesn't. He's probably just thinking, when can I go and get to bed with her again?
Yeah.
Like he gives you that hug and that little like, it's gonna be okay, baby. But like you want to give Castor like some benefit. But he barely. I even think he shoots his sister in the shootout. You know, the Mexican shootout when they're all in the church.
Yeah.
I might I think he might just shoot her. Doesn't give a damn because they just start shooting, but he's just because she gets shot, right?
Yeah,
Gina
she gets killed.
Gershon.
Yeah, and then she's like, don't let our kid grow up to be like us. She was
And
deadly too, man. She was wiping out cops.
yeah, oh, I like her. I like that scene too, like how the duality again that they take the kid, so like there is a hope for that new
Yeah,
child.
that's classic John Woo, man. He hates. You know what's interesting about this is he hates having the villains be all villainous, and then he hates having the good guys be all good.
Sean Archer's good though. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He's pretty much too good. He's like, even doesn't want to kill people in the prison.
Yeah, you're right.
He shoots everybody in the leg. He's like leg shots and like, but he embraces the evil when he's in that fight. You know, well, it's Nicolas Cage at this point, but he's like getting his ass kicked, and you look at him, and he's like crying because he has to fight this guy.
Yeah.
Have you ever done like? I mean, everybody's got a different. So here's the thing about the point of the fight in the prison. Back to that is because you see that he's struggling, right? When he has to like kill it, like beat up what's his name? Dobov?
Yep.
Dubov.
It's an interesting name, isn't it? Yeah, Dubov.
So Dubov, like he doesn't feel good about kicking his ass.
No.
Like he just doesn't. You can tell. But Castor would have loved it. He'd been licking the blood off. He would go crazy for it. So he's got to put an act where you can see he's like, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have that, like me. I remember I went to Toronto and I did a little boxing after Korea when I left. And I realized I like sparring all, but I don't like punching people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like Castor has no filter. He would like kill that guy and eat his kneecaps if he could, you know? But like
a lot of gut punches in that fight, by the way, because they didn't want him to get punched in the face too many times because he just got a new face. So they did a lot of gut shots of Nick Cage. Nick Cage, his belly was worked in that fight. Made me laugh. That was a big. Oh, sorry, Matteo. That was a big thing on set, though. They were like, "How many times can we punch him in the face and make people not worry about his face falling off?" So they had to add in 80% gut shots and 20% face punches to that fight. They had a math to how many times he gets punched.
Okay, to make it realistic, like so that like.
Well, because you just got a new face and you're getting punched in it. People are gonna be worried. Like, is that thing gonna slip off? So
that would be funny.
They just worked the belly in that thing.
Yeah. Body shot him.
They're traumatic if you get hit right, by the way, in the gut, for sure.
Well, he must have had a six-pack, right?
Yeah. Take that shit. Nick Cage was ripped during those days, right?
Nick Cage, yeah.
He was just coming off of Con Air.
The Rock and Con Air were before that.
Yeah. Dude, his run, so I call his run the prison run, where he did The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. So The Rock break into prison, Con Air is about a prison plane, and then in Face Off he goes to prison. Back to back to back, and they were all blockbusters. Like, that's an epic action run, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, oh, he was on fire.
On fire. He was cashing checks.
Yeah, he was he was like doing his thing well and like good actor. Yeah, he was really doing it.
Sorry I steamrolled your fighting comment, but you were just saying
it's all good.
Some people don't like fighting, but you could see the duality of Archer and Troy, because Troy would have eaten that guy's kneecaps, and then Archer just had a hard time. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to hurt this guy, but then he had to kind of embrace it, I would say, right, just to stay alive. Mm-hmm. I would think.
The psychic switch there, the psychology. He's like, looks at his brother, looks at people. He's like, shit. Well, I have to be this animal if I'm going to survive here, because it's like the nature, like the predators. You got to be the strong will eat the weak, and he's got a target on his back. He's Castor. He's supposed to be the badass. Mm-hmm. And if he starts acting like a chump, like, what the hell's going on here? Even his brother's like, what's going on with you? You're a chump. Even his brother's ready to turn his back on him. Yeah. He might not know that he's a fake. Maybe it's not that. He's all like, I don't know, bro. What's my medicine?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think he's thinking like, oh, this is a clone of my brother. But I think he's like, you're not going to be my brother anymore if you can't man up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not, because they live in that world of like, treachery and like backstabbing and like just bloodlust. Even his brother's like, oh, I'm getting turned on by these like water animals. Remember, he's watching the screen.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, we're talking some weird people here. Like,
yeah,
like,
and it's kind of crazy too that in the prison, Nick Cage and Alessandro Nivola, and I love their names, by the way, named after the Greek gods, Pollux and Castor, the twins. It's beautiful. But
my dad told me that. Well, we'll go to that after. But go your thing.
Oh, so they had a story where. And the writers hated it. The writers had massive fights on set about this because they freestyled this speech about how they became crazy because their dad made them wear pink dresses. And that's stupid. Like, that's not, I hate hating, right? But that
would have been bad. That'd been weak.
And so they cut that scene out. But there was fights because they wanted it in. And so, I mean,
Who's they? Who's they?
Nick Cage, and I mean, Nick Cage is at the height of his power. So if he's free